Welcome back, everybody. My name is Akshat Ratia. I'm a senior reporter for Bloomberg Green, and I've been your moderator for the day. This is the last session. As I started, the goal of this forum has been to collect thoughts and send it to the ministers who will be meeting tomorrow. And there have been some spicy discussions, some sparkly thoughts, and many of you went into breakout forums talking about different initiatives around heat, around scaling demonstration units. This session we'll have remarks from some of the ministers. We'll have a summary of the day from Amanda Wilson, looking at, if you weren't there in one of the other sessions, you'll get a feel for what happened in the other breakout room. And then we'll have a speech from Timur Gul of the IEA. But it is my great pleasure to start the proceedings by inviting Minister Eamon Ryan of Ireland, the Minister for Environment, Climate, Communications and Transport. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed, and I'm very honoured and glad just to share a few thoughts before we get into this meeting again. Can I just say, first of all, my sense, and I've just been wandering around the various halls here, a bit like a first-year student in university, just listening to different inputs, is that the process of having, even the nameplates here is very useful. Having mixed, we're used to our country nameplates, but having industry here and academia and that sharing of knowledge and that opportunity to listen to each other, in my sense it works. I don't know, and it's hard to judge. It won't be, we'll get a better sense, but I think it's been very, very useful and very informative. I'm only just going to, if I can, pick a couple of things that I just heard, completely random, I suppose, in the wandering around this morning, sharing a few just what I thought heard that jumped out to me. And I must admit there was some crossover because we also had the high-level dialogues organised by the countries, which may not have been part of this innovation stream, but you'll excuse the boundaries. And I just maybe just focus a couple of thoughts on the issue about what type of innovation, or how do we, when we're looking at this issue of innovation. Andrew Wilson, was it, from the International Business Chamber at an earlier session, made the point, in effect, about financial innovation. That we need innovation, I think he was saying, in the Basel III and in the various international financial architecture innovations, so that we get the scale of financing we need, and governments able to make supportive investments. And I just... he also made a point that's similar to the one John Pershing mentioned in this room here, I heard earlier, and I've always come back to this one because it's very close to my own heart. John Pershing was citing the example that the excellent work the US government does in research support, RPE, and all the examples we could give down over the years, needs to now extend and change so that we're sharing innovation with developing and emerging countries. And Andrew Wilson making that same point from the industrial commercial sector. It's another innovation, maybe that's a political innovation as much as anything else, in how we promote and see cooperation. I was very, John, his badge is here, but he's not here, John O'Donnell. I have a game I play at these various events when I look at the Irish names and thinking, where is John O'Donnell from? If California in this case, but still one of ours, I'd say, by the look of him. When you'll see him when he comes in. He made a point about the need for policy innovation. It was really interesting. His point was really important, that actually, do you know what? Things are happening faster than we thought, that the availability of low-cost renewables is really dramatically ramping up in a way that no one expected. And that's before we know polysilicon production is going to triple in the next 3 years. So we're only warming up. But he made there he is now. John, how are you? You see what I mean. Irish tooth and claw. But the point you were making in the room opposite, John, earlier on, not a glamorous room for politicians to be. Industrial heat isn't exactly where you get the front page. You kind of break the media. But what you said about what we need to think, what's useful about this setting where we come together, is we have a responsibility in the political side to think, how did you put it there, that the policy reform in terms of even the rules around access to electricity or the various obstacles in the deployment of electricity needs to change to unlock the potential. And I think that's an example I would call a policy innovation, that it's not all about, I mean, the technology we heard earlier on about low carb or low heat cement. I'd love to find out, see that working, but it isn't all about technology. It's also about all the various process and policy innovation that we need. Lastly, I'd speak again, I'm terribly local, and go back to, where's Margie McCarthy? There she is, from the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland, just whispered to me, and as a aside in one of the earlier meetings, it's also all about behavioural innovation. It's about how do we put the human being at the centre of this, and I think that's something, it's a sociology innovation we need. I responded to Margie. There was a fantastic event. The best thing I've ever been at, I think, was in Kyoto. The Japanese government organised Science and Technology in Society. Yeah, we did that. And it still goes on each year. It'll be in October this year. It's the most incredible event. You have to practically have a Nobel Prize to get in. I got an exemption. It was all the top scientists. And it was interesting. And it's all about technology and technology and innovation. And what did the physicists, what were they concerned about? What were the technologists concerned about? Ethics, values, philosophy, trust is what they put as the key things we need to get right if this innovation, this leap we need to make is to take hold, which goes back to what Margie was saying to me. It's about some human values at the centre of how we do all this. The why we're doing it, the how we do it justly is as important as the CH4s and the gigawatts and the megawatts and hertz, whatnot. There's a few short reflections from a very selective Irish picking people from the last few hours.
Well, thank you very much. I feel like it's true. It's very important to recognize the human in the technology. We talk a lot about the innovation today, but without us humans working together, it won't happen. It's my great pleasure to have Kyoto Tsuji, the State Minister for Foreign Affairs for Japan. The floor is yours.
Here you go. Yeah, thank you, Akshay, for your moderation, and thank you, IEA, for convening this. And like my Irish colleague, I was strolling around the pathway like a college freshman and looking in this room, and I see relevant parties from the public sector, finance, corporate research, and startups. And this is exactly what we requested last year at the Hiroshima Summit and the G7 leaders meeting. The Clean Energy Economy Action Plan issued at the summit, and the leaders underlined the important role of startups and small and medium enterprises to contribute to innovation and technology for net zero. So we really are happy that I'm pleased to witness this very successful convening this forum, and I'm going to make my remarks short and sweet. Of course, this meeting might not make the front page news, but I am sure that we are on the right page of history when we're talking about this, and I can't emphasize how important this meeting is, and we are in the midst of a historic energy transition period, ladies and gentlemen, and we continue to face geopolitical risks. And I'm not needing to mention Russia and Ukraine and the Middle East, and we're at the same time facing immediate need to take actions against the climate crises. And I want to emphasize that Japan is trying to take the lead in achieving the common goal of net zero by 2050 through various pathways and that are compatible with economic growth and energy security. And this is going to be tough, but it'll require clean technology and sustainable solutions, and especially renewable energy technologies and energy efficiency. It should become affordable, accessible, and attractive options. And of course, with all these actors in the room, I believe that it's necessary to promote research and development, innovation, and utilization of a broad range of clean energy technologies. And Japan, of course, among these actors, will make the effort to bring governments, industries, startups, research institutions, and investors and together, and we all have the roles in the collaboration. And this forum brought together these representatives from all the relevant sectors, and I thank all of you for contributing to a very fruitful discussion with your insights and respective perspectives. And I think it's very, very important for this kind of dialogue among relevant parties continue and deepen. And I hope that the IEA will provide such opportunities, and I promise that Japan will always show the flag. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, can I invite David Turk, who's the U.S. Deputy Secretary of Energy.
Thanks very much. And I could do two things here. I could read the speech, which is a good speech, but I'd rather just share some, to our two speakers, share some insights and some of the key takeaways. And hopefully this will be helpful, Amanda, as you give a more fulsome takeaway from all the various sessions. I assume people would want to hear the latter if anybody wants the speech that was written. Happy to share that as well. Before getting into my kind of four key takeaways, though, I'd love to ask everybody to give a round of applause to our IEA colleagues and all the organizers of this session in the day. For anyone who's ever organized something, especially something new like this, it takes an awful lot of effort, and I know there's a ton of folks who've been involved in this, so thank you for all the time in bringing us all together, as the IEA does so well in bringing us all together. All right, so the four key takeaways, and some of these will find some familiarity with the two previous speakers. One is, it is important to recognize innovation in all its forms, and really to focus on innovation in a variety of the different buckets. It was incredibly exciting. It always is for me. I'm a bit of a technology nerd. I suspect many of us are, just to hear what some of the entrepreneurs are working on, some of the key technological breakthroughs as well. But that's just one part of the equation. That is good. It's necessary, but it's not enough. We've got to have innovation throughout, certainly in the private sector and investment, as Minister Ryan was speaking about. But we also have to have policy innovation. And one theme that came up again and again, and I hear this a lot with entrepreneurs and others as we're doing our various programs, is permitting innovation and making sure that we are lowering the barriers to, whether it's the demonstration side or the scale side, how do we accelerate, reduce timelines throughout the space? And I think that's incredibly important. I don't think we spend enough time, I know we don't spend enough time at our Department of Energy and our national laboratories on the social science piece and really thinking of the innovation of human behavior and how all this fits together. Not just human behavior for those technologies that are more consumer facing, but it has to work for the businesses, the incumbents, the other parts of the system as well, and thinking about the human piece of it. Incredibly important throughout. And as Minister said, Minister Ryan, if it doesn't work for people and it's not people-centered, then that's not what we should be aiming at. Everything should be working for the betterment of our fellow citizens around the world. So that's the one piece. Secondly is really thinking about the full innovation cycle. There was a particular session focused on the demonstration phase, and it doesn't feel like there's enough focus on that around the world as there needs to be. If we get a bunch of things even to a pilot phase, and it's quite promising, but we can't go from that pilot to the scale up, and I know there's a number, I know Leah and a number of colleagues are in that particular phase right now. We just have to have a range of policy interventions, cost share programs, other kinds of things. We've got a big effort on that, billions of dollars going for a variety of that cost share up to 50%. There's other ways to get at that as well, but it just feels like that is such an important area, and if we really want to be serious about the scale and the pace, we need to really hitting that demonstration phase directly head on. A number of the governments involved in the IEA, also the Clean Energy Ministerial and Mission Innovation, all came together a couple years ago in Pittsburgh and said, if we pool all our funding together, what is the scale of funding we can bring to the demonstration? I think the number was about $92 billion. I think the IEA is keeping track of where we're at on the progress as the IEA does on that front, but it feels like there's a lot more that can be done there. It came up, but maybe not as much as I expected it to come up, at least in the sessions I was, and that was artificial intelligence and machine learning, and really using some of our higher tech tools, the compute power to help the innovation cycle to shrink it down. It may work better in some segments, in some areas than others, but again, taking full advantage of that throughout the innovation cycle. The third piece, and this is why I think it's so exciting to be here at the IEA with the technology collaboration programs, the 39 of the TCPs for those who are involved in those. The third piece and lesson learned is connecting the dots. We don't have time to wait. We need to connect those dots. We need to have frank conversations. We need to have direct conversations with each other. As a country that's now very lucky to have a whole range of tools in our tool belt, we need to connect the dots, and we need to be a better partner connecting those dots and accelerating those dots. And so there's no way we're going to be successful without entrepreneurs, without others who are providing feedback, telling us when we're doing something great, but even better, telling us when we're doing something that's not going to connect the dots in the way it needs to be connected. So that's a third piece. And then the last one, because we have such a challenge in front of us, we really need to learn from each other in real time, or even quicker than real time if that's possible, and track progress where there is progress and learn when we are falling short. Timur and I were talking yesterday. One of the projects that I worked on, and Timur spent a lot of time on this, is the tracking clean energy progress that the IEA does every year, looking sector by sector, technology by technology, which are at a pace and scale that they need to be in order to get us all to where we've agreed to go, and that is net zero by mid-century. That is an incredibly challenging trajectory to do that across the board, not just electricity, but transportation and industry, and you name it, buildings, et cetera, et cetera. The last year analysis showed that out of 50 different sectors and technologies, only 3 of those were on target. Now, the 3 that are on target are pretty impressive. We've seen phenomenal growth in solar PV. We've seen EVs taking off around the world, including increasingly in the US. We've seen lighting make terrific progress around the world, but we need that across the board. And so I raised that not as a downer that there's 47 areas where we're not making progress, but more as a thanks for everyone in this room. Whether you're from industry, whether you're from government, whether you're from the IEA, whether you're from investment firms, thank you for making your career choices to be part of this innovation friendship, this innovation community, so that we can all connect the dots, drive each other to make sure that we're living up to the moment that we're all living in. So thank you all for your parts. Thanks, everybody. That's it.
Thank you. Now, shortly we'll hear from Amanda, but I wanted to take a moment to express that immediately after that, we're going to bring you guys back into the discussion. The goal over the next hour that's left is to get your view on what the IEA must do next to advance energy innovation around the world and how to increase cooperation between countries. If you can keep because we are going to have a lot of people wanting to say things, and that's good. We want as many of you to say what you want to, but let's keep that brief. And with that, let me introduce Amanda Wilson, who's the Director General of the Office of Energy Research and Development at the National Resources Canada, and also the Chair of the IEA Committee on Energy Research and Technology.
Wonderful. Thanks very much. And hi, everyone. Lovely to see you all here. And thanks so much for your participation throughout the day. I have the enviable or also unenviable task of trying to summarize all of the fantastic discussions that happened throughout this morning and this afternoon into a few key bullets. My friends at the IEA Secretariat have helped me with this. My goal here will be to give you the most salient nuggets so that we can leave time for the roundtable and for Timur as well. So why don't we jump right in? So this morning there were 3 sessions that many of you participated in. In the session focused on 50 years of learning, key takeaways are that essentially there has just been an enormous transformation in terms of the technology portfolio that we are all dealing with, and low carbon technologies, as the executive director said this morning, are unstoppable. Governments have been central to this work, but more work is needed in this space. Energy innovation policy, as we've heard a few times here, is absolutely critical to the work that's happening. Technology development is obviously at core and important, but it can't be done in a vacuum. Energy innovation policy is important, it's evolving, and it's evolving rapidly. So there's work to be done in terms of things that we've heard about, standards, bank guarantees, social license. All of these things are increasingly important, and we need to look at all of them as we move forward. In the next session on technology priorities, we heard about a really wide range of technologies that are important, which I think underscores the importance of moving forward many of these things at the same time. It's not an either-or choice in many cases. So we heard a lot about mass-produced products and software. We heard a lot about large-scale processes, like industrial decarbonization, CCUS, and so on. And there was a lot of talk of emerging economies. Then, focusing in on the institutional landscape, a key takeaway is that the IEA really is well situated to convene actors across all of the spaces that are important in terms of having this discussion. So where there are shared objectives, there is work that we can do together. And I think that this forum today has been a really fantastic example of that. There are a number of international initiatives, and there are sort of different purposes and different roles for each of them. But I think there is a lot of good that can come from governments engaging in those initiatives and figuring out how they can work together more cooperatively. And then building on existing structures. So in which ways can the IEA help build on things that already exist to further accelerate and advance this work? Moving on to the next slide, where I will attempt to summarize the 3 different breakout sessions that happened concurrently this afternoon. In the session on emerging market and developing economies, there were 3 key takeaways. So clean energy technology can be a cornerstone of industrial development. There was a lot of discussion around the need for focused attention on ecosystem approaches, so including aligning things like financial incentives with climate and innovation. And then there was a discussion around whether or not, this whole notion of leapfrogging. Is it possible? How can it happen? And so on. In the session on industrial heat, a few key takeaways. One is that there are a lot of ideas out there, and as we've heard in so many other spaces, policies are important in order to accelerate the development and the deployment of these technologies. There are certain foundational needs in order to see the benefits in this space. And then finally, there are just many, many opportunities for collaboration, whether that's between countries, whether that's between companies, whether that's between sectors, and so on. And then finally, in the session on demonstration projects and how they can be successful, Dave did a really nice job of summarizing some of those key points. I will just add that there was a lot of discussion around demand. So the need for there to be a clear market in order to attract investment. So whether that is, there was discussion of the various roles, let's say, that government can play in inducing that demand. There was also discussion of the need for clear regulations and permitting processes. This led to people to touch on the role that the IEA could have in this space. So I think I will leave it there. Certainly lots to think about, and I will hand it back to you.
Thank you very much. That is a Herculean task. We spoke for hours, and to put it on 2 slides is not easy. Well, we should all give IEA some more work and speak for the next hour and add to that slide and give more thoughts. Now, the prompt here is, what would you like the IEA to do over the next year, ideally, to try and accelerate energy innovation? The format is, if you would like to speak, if you're on the table, please use your name card and put it vertical, and I will come round to asking for your contribution. If you're in the audience, there are roving mics. I'm going to keep looking around for anybody who raises hands and get those mics to you, or the people who are there with the roving mics can come to you and point me to your contribution. So I already see there are a couple of those raised over there. Professor from IIT Delhi, do you want to take the floor?
Thank you for that, and I'm going to keep it brief. Exactly as you said, I think there are maybe 3 things that IEA could do that would be particularly helpful in next year and the years to come. I think one is already a point that I'd made earlier, but I want to re-emphasize that IEA could very well play a key role in helping outline what is the innovation agenda for energy access, because there is an innovation agenda. Fatih, I, and some other colleagues had actually put together a piece that proposed a mission energy access that thinks about this in a more systemic way, including innovation, and I think that really is something that IEA could drive very well as the entity that thinks more about energy innovation than anybody else in the world in that way. So I think that's one. The second one is that IEA, I think, could build on its traditional big picture perspective on the global clean energy transition. And I think this point that's been made in many conversations today is help broaden the notion of what a clean energy innovator is. And it's the point that was made in the previous session in the emerging economies room. We normally think of clean energy innovators as only being tech folks, but I think the point that's being made is you're talking about policy innovation, business model innovation, financial innovation, knowledge network innovation. And I think the IEA could very well think about this, take on this challenge and really kind of spell this out. For example, people talked about policy innovation. How does one get policy innovation systematically? Evelyn Wong had talked about the idea of technology white spaces. I think the IEA could take on a parallel conversation about understanding what are the capacity white spaces for advancing the global clean energy transition. And the last piece is, I think the IEA could play a very important role in supporting energy innovation for and in developing and emerging economies. I think it can play a role both in taking a global perspective and understanding what is the role of international cooperation to strengthen energy innovation in developing countries and emerging economies, but also work with country governments in those countries and provide them insights on how they themselves could strengthen their energy innovation systems. Thank you.
General Atlantic.
Thank you. It's Maria Hamilton from General Atlantic. Just as background, we're a significant private equity fund, and we have about $3.5 billion dedicated to specifically climate. Being in this industry for over 20 years, some lessons learned here, really about how to scale companies, which ultimately I think was a big conversation of discussion here. Maybe two things just on that around scaling companies. One is really about getting the business model correct and thinking about new business models and how we're scaling, whether that is thinking about licensing versus building your first plant, or is that your go-to-market strategy, it's your location strategy. I think we have to do things differently going forward, so the more innovation we can have around business models is going to help us scale. The second thing is that we are moving from molecules to electrons. So we have to think about, we are in a digital transformation. We're in a digital revolution here. So how do we use all that data? I know AI was a big focus, maybe in some of the discussions today. On Davos, it was obviously a big discussion. But I think it's a real opportunity for us now to use that data to help measure our progress. So putting that to the case of what IEA can do going forward, maybe a couple areas. One is really around sharing the data. I heard earlier today that that's already being done. So I think lean in further about how we share the data. And as these industries mature, we can put benchmarks in place. I think that will help people know where they stand relative to best in class and how we can improve using that data. So I think there's continued opportunity to move that forward. The second one is around the business models, and maybe it's an educative role that IEA is doing today that can lean in further. And that is when we think about the systems that, or let's say the problems that we're solving, they're system problems. Right? It's always a chicken and egg. If we don't have the supply, we don't have the demand, we have to bring it together. And I think the more visionary can be on how we're solving these problems and how we can bring the partnerships together will be really important. I think you can have a strong role in providing education back to the markets, so the technologies can partner up, with the right suppliers, with the right government policies. So would love to see more lean in those two respects. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to you, Andrew Forrest.
Thank you. You've asked a tremendous question. How can you advance this cause, help us to answer the critical question which we must to our stakeholders, whether or not you're elected in some form or another as chief executive, chairman or politician. But that question is, when are you going to stop polluting the planet? When are you going to stop burning fossil fuel? And I think it's an incredibly important question. I'd love the IEA to advocate that question widely. And when I hear CCS, carbon sequestration, as a method of continuing fossil fuel production, what I'm reminded of is the whistle being blown in a game long after the victory's already been declared, i.e. victory's declared before the game's even started. CCS really, as a reliable method we're going to put the world's future on, is a failure. It's a technology failure, it's an engineering failure, it's a cost failure. Where it works in exceptions does not statistically make it true. It still makes it a falsehood. So I just wanted to put that squarely on the table and say the other elephant I'd like to address in the room is carbon tax. Now, I understand, I'm a heavy industrialist, I burn around 1 billion litres of diesel a year, that carbon taxes are a big issue and politically tough. However, why not consider a carbon tax on an industry which is very hard to abate? Let's put shipping in there. I ship around 200 million tonnes of products around the world every year. I'm part of an industry which ships over 1 billion tonnes of products around the world. These are long-distance sales, iron ore. And I'm aware that green ammonia, which is a vector for green hydrogen, and that's not to be conferred with burnt fossil fuel attempting carbon sequestration and calling it green. That's not green. That's just fossil fuel hydrogen. But where you can mass produce a fuel, like green ammonia, which we're proving you can do, where it can actually go into ships and provide reliable long-term shipping, which we've also proven we can do. We sailed the Green Pioneer, a green ammonia ship, into COP28 Dubai. We had difficulties getting it in because there's licence issues with a pollution-free fuel. Let's advocate for an industry carbon tax. Now, it won't take much to get the shipping industry to match up between green ammonia or bunker sea oil or diesel to be able to push the shipping industry within a decade or so to be entirely green. And I'm not advocating this as an outside observer saying, tut, tut, this is what you all should all do. I'm advocating this as someone who will be directly impacted by it, who knows that we cannot afford to keep doing what we're doing, and that the IEA has this incredible opportunity, nay, I must say responsibility, to advocate when the industry solution emerges for a hard-to-abate sector like shipping, to advocate for carbon tax on that industry to help lead the world out of the clear and obvious, scientifically measured demise we're currently heading in if we don't stop burning fossil fuel.
Thank you for that intervention. There's one from the UNFCCC.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon to you all. If there is one recommendation I could share in this room, this is about the inner development. We need to have inner development goals set and implemented if we want to address the sustainable development goal. We need to develop internally for outer action. And I would recommend to articulate value around 3 key elements: caring, sharing, and daring. Caring because if we want to address the global challenge such as climate and sustainability, we need to genuinely care for the well-being of the many people and the planet. It means that we need to go beyond developing innovative solutions for sectors and think about innovative solutions that can help satisfy the core human needs of the many people, but doing it in a way that is aligned with the climate and sustainability goal. This is what will make mitigation attractive to the Global South, and this is what will enable the Global South to leapfrog. And the good news is that if we are doing that, we go beyond incremental innovation. Because at the sectoral level, the only thing that we will be doing is keeping the same product and acting on their negative externality. This is good, this has to be done, but it will not be enough. If we really would like to tap on the most transformative type of climate and sustainability solution, we need to go back to the core human need and explore how innovation can help satisfy them in a way that is aligned with the climate and sustainability goal. The second, sharing. If we want to address the climate and sustainability goal, radical collaboration is needed. So it was said several times, it's not just about technology innovation, it's also about policy innovation, innovative business model, innovative financial instrument, innovative product from the culture and creative industry. This requires radical collaboration, sharing of knowledge, sharing of experience, and sharing of data. This is why we are strongly promoting open science. We need to stop hiding knowledge behind paywall. Third, daring. One of the main reasons why we are facing a lot of challenge with climate and sustainability innovation is because most of the time when we are setting the goal, climate and sustainability goal, we set them not based on what is needed, but based on our perception of what is possible. And this actually locks us in a vicious circle, because I have heard several times CEO of companies saying that I cannot set a bold goal because I do not have the solution, and I want to be credible. If my board of directors asks me, how will you go about your goal? I would like to be able to articulate, here are the solutions I will use. But the problem is, at the same time, if you ask those that are developing solutions, why don't you develop transformative solutions? They will respond, because there is no demand, and we are locked in a vicious circle. So we need to break this vicious circle by having a more moonshot way of thinking, by setting climate and sustainability goal not on the basis of what is apparently possible, but on the basis of what is needed. And the gap between what is needed and what is possible will be the key driver for innovation.
Thank you. Can I bring in Netherlands next?
Thank you very much. And thank you for this great day and great organization. I think the question was, what can the IEA do to do even more? And when I was thinking about that, it's almost like the IEA has a sort of a royal role, and they can only do three things, which is listen, warn, and advise. And listen, I think, is really translated in the IEA as having an analytical power which is second to none of what is happening all over the world. And that listening, that being really informed, has a huge impact on the choices that are made. And then the second thing is advising. I think is the key role of the IEA in really providing a credible avenue to a clean energy world is so extremely powerful. And that is, of course, backed up with the analysis I just mentioned, but also with the huge breadth of skill which is available at the Secretariat, and also the convening power, the ability to draw that out of all the knowledge which is available. And the final thing is warning, and you know, almost linking to what Dave was saying there, is the tracking clean energy progress, where you really look, how are we doing compared to where we should go? And a warning is not an empty thing like, you know, we're not doing well, but it is really indicating what should happen to get on track. And therefore the advice, it's not so much the advice to the IEA, it is the advice to all the member countries to keep positioning and supporting the IEA in those critical functions. And that means something for funding. It means something for following up the advices and the warnings which have come out from there. So it's arguably not even a recommendation to the IEA to do things different, but it's a recommendation, arguably to us all, to keep it in the position it has been placed and has worked towards over the decades, really. And then the last thing, which I also would like to underline, it again strengthens what is already there. It was just mentioned in passing, the technology collaboration programs, which are such a fantastic vehicle to exchange views and insights. And there again, it is not so much the IEA which has to do more, it is once again the member countries to step in these collaborative programs, give them the support they need, and in that way the IEA can continue its role. So it's maybe not what should the IEA do differently or what should the IEA do even more, it is how can governments keep the IEA in that position and how can we use what comes out of it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that contribution. I think you've given the IEA a new motto for the 50th anniversary. Listen, warn, advise. Julia from Breakthrough.
Thank you so much. First of all, again, well done to the IEA for organizing such an event. Certainly, Timur, you and I have been speaking a lot about the role of innovation, and I'm so pleased about everything that you've been and the team been able to highlight today. Someone told me yesterday to respond to the scale of the challenge, you need to rise to the challenge of scale. And I think that's very important in terms of all of the work that the IEA is doing, and also based on what we've been hearing on the journey of a lot of these innovators and innovation, and how also nonetheless they are challenged to scale. You know, the IEA has been talking about moving from 50% of the technologies we need are not yet commercially available, now down to 35%. But when we start looking at projects that actually have shovels in the ground, if you just look at hydrogen, it's only 7% of the announced projects have reached final investment decisions. So my encouragement is really for the IEA to double down on what will it take to actually get that tipping point. We're certainly at the brink of a clean energy revolution, as Secretary Kerry was saying this morning, but we really need to accelerate. We need to scale. And that means thinking about de-risking models. That means thinking about new types of public-private partnerships. But it also will have a major impact in terms of bringing down what we call the green premiums and making sure that the technologies are available. The last thing I'll also say in terms of, as we're creating the markets, being able to make sure that these markets are bigger and making sure, again, that we build on what the IEA is doing around common standards, common methodologies, so that we're not just looking at Europe or the US or other countries, but we're really building up these markets so that they go from a niche to actually global markets for these new technologies. So thank you again.
Next, can I bring in the EU, please?
Thank you very much, and also from my side, huge thanks to the IEA team and Timur and all others for organizing this first innovation forum. I hope it's not the last one. I think it has been a great day today and very interesting voices. So as we are transitioning to clean energy globally, I think we need to become more decarbonized, decentralized, electrified, and we just heard also we need to more de-risking in our innovation policies. And in the EU, we are focusing a lot on renewables and energy efficiency, but not only, also other low-carbon solutions. But when I look ahead and what needs to be done is that we have a system which needs more flexibility between supply and demand and system solution. So we would propose as 3 areas to work. First of all, storage. I think storage and all kind of storages, not only batteries, but really storage in a system view. I think this is something where we need more innovation and more focus on. Secondly, all kind of digital solutions. We already heard also from Dave, artificial intelligence, it was also in the workshop, and make that link between artificial intelligence, how we can use it in the energy sector. There are multiple examples already, maintenance of wind turbines and others, but just to dig into a little bit more in that question. And third, and that's probably I was in the second breakout group, and that's about how to innovate more in the hard-to-abate sectors. So we heard a lot about these technology. Hydrogen is obviously one, clean hydrogen, of course, but also maybe other forms. So these are the areas, and also I think IEA is the best place for international collaboration. But also we need, what we heard, sectoral collaboration between the sectors, between the different players, and maybe also some synergies when we come up. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I bring H2U next?
Thank you. My name is Attilio Pigneri from H2U. I represent an export class green hydrogen developer in Australia. I think there is one element that I think Secretary Turk touched on. Like, we should talk a bit more about the demonstrations in the sense that we should talk about the innovation that actually delivers from technology into assets, because assets is what is going to decarbonize. And so I think the IEA has done historically an enormous amount of work through the Technology Cooperation Program in basically sharing knowledge on innovation and even kind of casting the side 20 years ahead in understanding trajectories for technologies. But we've got an urgency to actually see some technologies that can go to scale today on the ground at scale. And so permitting innovation was one area that was touched on. Financing innovation is really, really important because it can be done by the project developers on one side through strategic equity. So it's equity that gets access to a pipeline of projects by investing into a demonstration program. But the level of innovation that makes the assets bankable, because a demonstrator is not about the technology, it is about bankability, needs to be front and center. So the loan guarantees is one mechanism, loan to equity mechanisms, anything that helps these projects being the risk in the eyes of investors, and particularly debt providers, is really important. Because at the end of the day, if we don't demonstrate the bankability of an asset class, we're never going to see that asset class at scale in multiple locations, in multiple instances. And so project delivery innovation, financing innovation, permitting innovation, I think should be a theme in itself, above everything and above all technologies. It pays dividends across the spectrum. Thank you.
Can I bring in Denmark next?
Thank you very much. And just following up on what Secretary Turk said, 2 points on political innovation and on connecting the dots, all in an IEA context. And being from Denmark, of course, we have quite a strong track record on green innovation. How come? Of course, we have bright heads in Denmark, but we all have those globally. One of the answers is public pressure. And I can say that as a government official, that no matter what any Danish government does in the green transition, it will never be enough in the eyes of the public, and that's a good thing. And I think IEA maybe has a role here because you provide science, you provide information, you provide data, so you provide a lot of the basis for bringing about public pressure, because the more people get to know on this issue, not in a doomsday way, but in a more scientific way, I think that's a great help for all of us. And then on connecting the dots, I just very briefly want to commend you on having the next global efficiency, energy efficiency conference in Africa, I think in Kenya. And I think that's a great way of applying one of the main outcomes of the Dubai Consensus to an African context. Thanks.
That's also a good excuse to remind me that Simon said there is a global clean cooking summit that the IEA is hosting on the 14th of May. With that, can I bring in ETSAP TCP, which you should explain what it is.
Thank you. My name is Brian O'Gallagher. I'm chair of ETSAP. It's one of the oldest technology collaboration programs. It stands for Energy Technology Systems Analysis Program, and we developed the energy systems modeling tools that are used by about 200 modeling teams in 72 countries around the world to help inform policies, advise governments on the future of energy technologies and energy systems. So firstly, I'd like to say happy birthday to the IEA. when I was 50, I spent some time reflecting on the previous 50 years, but also looking ahead, and I'm glad to see that dual focus here with the emphasis on the looking ahead piece, because I think it's critically important. I want to acknowledge Minister Eamon Ryan. In 2008, he was previously a Minister for Energy, and he supported Ireland's re-engagement with ETSAP, so that's one of the reasons that I'm here today, so thank you for that. The suggestion I have one suggestion for the IEA, and it draws on some of the reflections that have already come true, that energy technology itself, innovation in technology is insufficient. We need innovation in policy, market, finance, but also in the societal aspects. And it's this final piece, the societal aspects, I'd like to focus on, because I think it's more neglected than the policy, market, or financial elements. And sometimes it's spoken in terms of the social contract, it's spoken about in terms of acceptance of new technology, acceptance of infrastructure, but there's also an element about mobilizing society, you know, because sometimes it can be expressed as a negative or getting over a barrier rather than a positive. And when we look at what we need to do in terms of the accelerating the transition, it's on the supply side, it's on infrastructure, it's on technology, but it's also on reducing demand, switching transportation modes, changing practices, and these are really difficult and challenging elements. But there is a lot of analysis, there's a lot of experience available on building societal capacity, building societal infrastructure for this type of approach. So my suggestion to the IEA would be a joint workshop with people in that space, people who do that analysis, who are involved, who have experience with that mobilizing society. It might be in other aspects, in other areas of, not necessarily in energy, but there's a lot can be learned, and there is a lot of expertise within the IEA, but it's a joint workshop and then possibly a collaborative initiative is what I'd suggest on that mobilizing society piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I bring in Okra Solar? You too.
Push button. Okay, cool. Awesome. Firstly, thank you very much for this event. It's been really, really interesting. I can share a little bit of a on-the-ground perspective. So I just came in from Nigeria just a couple of days ago. When you're in Nigeria, you just hear this sound. It's like, it's there 24/7. And it's basically, there is a diesel generator that is running somewhere, no matter what, and you can always hear it. We work in off-grid electrification, and I'd like to give you a little bit of a memory from literally just like 3 days ago. So we took the REA, the Rural Electrification Agency, out to a village in Nasarawa State, and they are connected with Okra Mesh Grid technology, which is our technology. Touch upon it in a bit, but basically when you talk to the community, you're like, how has your life changed? Like, how has productivity changed? Are you making like, 10 times the money that you were making before? And the responses that you get are actually very, very interesting. They're like, well, I don't know exactly how much more money we're making, but like at nighttime, our kids can read. And so that means they can help us with work during the daytime. So just very different livelihoods. They're like, we don't have to go out and chop trees to get wood for cooking anymore because we have electric cooking. And we have refrigeration now, so we can have ice cream, people can go get treatments. And the one that was most, I guess, profound for me was that the doctor at the PHC, Primary Healthcare Center, was like, we can now deliver babies at nighttime. And we're making money from it. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, we charge 2,000 Naira, which is $2 to deliver a baby, and we can do it at nighttime. So it's commercially viable and helping people deliver babies in a nice, effective way. So yeah, there's about 700 million people globally who don't have access to electricity. And in communities like the one that I talked to you about, there's innovative technologies that are getting deployed that a lot of us don't actually know about. There's like battery swapping going on. The cost per kilowatt hour was $2 to $4. Just think about that, to get fuel from diesel in these communities. So any solution that's better than that is an innovation that's having a huge impact. one of the things that's happening is they're installing solar and batteries at productive hubs where people may use refrigeration, pumping, etc., and then they take the excess power to nearby households using mesh grid technology. And when I asked a bunch of people here if they'd heard about mesh grids, the vast majority said no. 2 people said yes. One was from Cambodia and one was from the IEA. So great job there. And basically, what I want to recommend to the IEA is, in our experience, we had to hustle with the Rural Electrification Agency of Nigeria to get mesh grids included in the electrification strategy that can save over $3 billion of CapEx investment in Nigeria alone. And I think the IEA is in a good position to inform and advise other countries in developing nations as to how to implement their electrification strategy. Last point is, I think, as a CEO running a tech company, we always look at distribution strategies. I think from our experience, the World Bank, who's lending $750 million to the Nigerian government for rural electrification, they are very influential in the standards and the tariff setting, the policy for that country. And that's kind of how we got in there. But to scale this across the rest of Africa, I think we need to have a way that someone potentially like the IEA can communicate with organizations like the World Bank and take the innovations that are already there and get them scaling with modern regulation and policy. Thanks.
Thank you. Remarkable story, that one. Can I bring in Italy next, please?
Thanks. Good afternoon to everyone. And I think that the agency team made a wonderful work in these first 50 years. And now, from my perspective, the real question is, what can we do to support the future of the agency? And we is the government, because from my point of view, we know very well that we have a lot of technologies that can help us to build a new sustainable world. But now it is time to open our mind to understand that it's time to start a real collaboration between developing countries and developed countries. This is a win-win solution. I want to put this aspect on the table. But it is necessary a courage from our side, because sometimes, and I spoke as a government part, we have a lot of difficulties to speak to some other countries. Instead, climate change, sustainable future, sustainable planet involves everyone. We are at the same situation. So only if we can support the rule and the works that the agency did very well in the past, we really have the opportunity to put on the ground the technology and the innovation that you are here and you are demonstrated everywhere, every time. But again, it is time to change our mind, and I spoke this from a government position, because this is extremely difficult sometimes, and I saw this a lot of time during COP28. During COP28, we arrived as a real good solution, a good statement, but is only the beginning, not the end of the process. Thanks.
Thank you. I see more than 10 people who want to speak, and we only have about 20 minutes left, so I'm going to ask you to keep your remarks brief, but can I bring Cody in next? You have to.
I'm just used to yelling. Thank you. It is so. It's been a great event. Thanks so much for having me and putting everything together. I am coming here, I think, more worried than I feel like a lot of the attitude is, which I understand is not very good energy to bring to a birthday party. But I like this morning, for example, we talked about how in the next 3 or 4 years we expect the 12% of electricity generation that's coming from wind and solar to jump to 25%. But then it was also mentioned by the executive director that only 20% of final energy use is electricity. And we haven't really made any progress on the other part. And additionally, electricity today, and also with that increase in 3 or 4 years, is still joule per joule more emissions intensive than burning coal directly. It is a complicated situation. So I think that one thing that the IEA could do that could be very, very helpful, and certainly would have been helpful for me when I was getting my PhD and, you know, in early days of thinking about the company that I run, would be to talk about lessons learned based on hypotheses that we thought were going to be true for decarbonization and ended up not being true. And specifically, what I mean is we seem to be very good at commercializing technologies that have a green premium in high-income countries, right? And most of these technologies seem to have a green premium. But if we want to scale faster, and we need to scale faster, we need to start scaling technologies that don't have a green premium, but are green. And you know, one of the reasons why so much energy is heat is because heat is between 20 and 40 times cheaper than electricity. And that should make sense, right? Electricity is pure exergy, it's work, so it's a much higher value form of energy than heat, and it always will be. It would appear to break a lot of thermodynamics to do something otherwise. But we also only have really clean electricity as the only option, right? So if we think about decarbonizing technologies just by replacing heat with electricity, for example, then it's going to lead to a green premium. We need to do something better than that. And there have been a couple ways to electrify that have shown to work in industry, and one of them is co-production, and that's what my company does. So making multiple products with a single capex that allows the use of electrification and justifies the much higher form of energy. But there's lots of things that we've seen that we thought were going to be true 50 years ago, or 15 years ago, or I thought was going to be true during my PhD, that it looks like are not going to be true, right? So capex is really, really important in industrial systems. And it turns out that we really can't economically use intermittent electricity. We have to use 24-hour electricity, right? So that would be a great learning. Same with distributed solutions or small-scale solutions. That appears to break a lot of chemical engineering, right? The product scales proportional to the volume, which scales proportional to R cubed, whereas what you pay for scales proportional to R squared, which is the surface area of the reactor. And therefore, small-scale things are more expensive in terms of capex than large-scale things. And that's why we see large-scale industry. So there's several empirical lessons that we can get from the last 15 years of sort of debunking hypotheses that I think could set us up really, really well to get the next set of innovative technologies out there and develop them. So thank you.
Thank you. Again, I'm just urging everybody, I want to get to everybody's thoughts, so let's just keep this short. Can I have Aker next?
Thank you. And let me congratulate the IEA with its first 50 years. IEA is making an enormous contribution. I think we all acknowledge that. And also IEA is more needed than ever. I think we can see that almost every day. IEA's convening role, I mean, its platform for collaboration, I think should not be underestimated. And that might be more needed than ever. We're in a world that's fragmented. We all know that. Outside of this room, there are quite a lot of people being worried about the situation the world is in. At the same time, as we're at an urgent need of scaling up solutions, as we've been talking about today here. So that combination really points to the role that the IEA has. I really liked what Dave said about innovation friendship. I think we should try and fill that with some concrete measures, and IEA is very well placed to do that. For example, disseminating lessons learned, trying to find collaborative platforms also for policy development, I think would be very useful, and to expand the family of those who are collaborating in that. very, very important. To stimulate partnership and collaboration between governments is something the IEA has done for 50 years. Expanding on that, very important. But I think it's also very important, as this meeting here is demonstrating, to expand that collaboration to industry and finance, to try to build up as big platform as possible of the, let's say, the friendship platform for moving forward. So I would really encourage IEA to continue down that road. Thank you.
Can I bring in Sama from World Nuclear Association next?
Thank you very much. I think, as everybody, I would like to congratulate the IEA in the 50th anniversary. And also I want to thank the IEA again for the opportunity of being here. So to some extent, the IEA has included the role of nuclear energy in the global decarbonization for some years. But I think that certainly after COP28, where for the first time we actually saw that the global stockage recognized nuclear energy as one of the energy technologies that need to be accelerated if we are serious about meeting Paris Agreement goals. And we had over 25 countries committing to tripling nuclear capacity by 2050. One of the things that I would like to ask the IEA is to continue doing the very good job that they are doing to putting together science-based and level playing field studies, but also making sure that the role of nuclear energy is appropriately included in those studies. Also, I would say I heard many things that I think are very important that the IEA has been very good at, which is encouraging and incentivizing innovation in policies, innovation in finance. We talked about innovation in business models. Certainly all those things are needed because we see that sometimes the challenges that we have is not the technology, is the delivery model of this technology. Certainly that is true for nuclear energy. And also we really need to have, I think that, and in here, I think the IEA would be fantastic to look into industrial policy. We heard this in a couple of sessions before, and I would like to emphasize that. I think it is important to have good energy policy, but industrial policy goes right behind it, because not every startup, not every sector can develop their own supply chain, their own industrial infrastructure in order to succeed to develop what we need at scale, at speed. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get John O'Donnell next?
Thank you. The world is just entering this moment that intermittent electricity is becoming the cheapest form of energy we have ever had as a species, and everywhere in the world, grids are moving as renewables deploy from phase 2 to phase 3 to more and more volatility in pricing and more curtailment of clean energy. One of the things the IEA has done is deep study of electricity grids in many places. Separately, the IEA has done deep study of the energy needs for industry. And industry's largest need for energy is in the form of heat. And there are now a number of companies, myself, Rondo among them, that are bringing to market new energy storage technologies that store energy at a very small fraction of the cost of electrochemical energy storage for electricity. IEA bringing together knowledge from these two areas, sector coupling between industrial energy use and grid energy generation, that understanding that sector coupling, the problems of industry are a solution to problems in the grid and vice versa, is something that IEA can do uniquely. And in places around the world, this is quite advanced, and other places it hasn't started yet. IEA bringing lessons and best practices from areas where it's happening now and broadening that to worldwide will absolutely accelerate the deployment of clean energy in industry worldwide.
Thank you. Energy Lab?
Thank you, IEA, for bringing such a diversity of background and knowledge in the room. I'm from Energy Lab. We are an independent non-profit operating in Cambodia. I'd like to speak 1 minute on the background and the context and 1 minute on the suggestion for IEA. So Cambodia is at a turning point. In December, it has announced that it would double solar commitment. It will bring in variable renewable energy such as wind into its system. It will look into pump hydro storage, and it will also look into piloting BESS as a complement to existing solar farm. So there is an ambition, but there is the need to materialize that ambition. And IEA has always produced very cutting edge and independent report and analysis that we have been using in Cambodia to inform government actors as well as private sector and other non-profit organizations. So the suggestion for IEA is to continue doing that, to continue pushing the boundaries further. There is an ongoing effort to accelerate clean energy and at the same time to phase out of coal. So it is a positive tension. That tension needs to be nurtured with new and breakthrough knowledge. And as one of the persons said, it is important that there are actors that are further pushing the boundaries. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I bring in Eric from Breakthrough?
I'm Eric from Breakthrough Energy Ventures, the investment fund. If IEA has to build a secure, affordable, and clean energy, critical minerals will be must-haves, obviously, not only enablers. And we have a portfolio of more than 100 companies bringing innovation and new technologies to the field. And for them, critical minerals, and for all of us in the room, that will be obviously a must-have. So IEA could probably push a boat forward and reach a next step with, on this topic by fostering cooperation for a long-term view, foster innovation and knowledge sharing, probably propose some ESG standards in mining and in refining. ESG will be key, obviously. Propose some rules and trends to govern this market dynamics, establishing true markets, avoiding cartelization of this area before even if it becomes ballistic. That's very important. So I would push for special initiatives in the next years. So I wouldn't wait another 5 to 10 years. I would make it today before there are huge tensions, obviously. And maybe also innovation, not only technology, but also innovation in governance. So we could probably put in place a new forum, create some new ways to discuss, maybe a new agency to discuss those topics, and not only to discuss, but to execute and operationalize on this transformation. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I bring in IPHE next?
Thank you, Chair. And I add my congratulations to others, to the IEA for the 50-year anniversary, of course, and to this fantastic event. I would just suggest one big idea. I think that the IEA has now achieved so much in terms of the authority that they have in the world as a global energy authority that everybody goes to, as well as have made tremendous inroads into the emerging economies and the developing economies, that I think they can now step up to the plate of the biggest challenge. I consider the biggest challenge is how do we scale up and speed up the clean energy in the emerging and developing world. So to do that, we need other institutions also around the table. We need the financial institutions. Where are the developing banks, multilateral development banks? Where is the World Bank? Where is IMF? They need to be all put around the table. And I think the IEA is now in a position that they can do that. They can become the conductor of the big clean energy program that we need for the developing and the emerging world. A new Marshall Plan for clean energy, including clean energy manufacturing, and the IEA can pose itself as the conductor and bring everybody together to make that happen. I'm not sure you can do it in 1 year, but maybe in 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Simons?
Thank you very much. First of all, it's a pleasure to see so many former IEA colleagues around this table. I have 3 very quick recommendations. First, wider dissemination of the current IEA studies, especially the revamped Energy Technology Perspective Study, into academia to frame the work of scientific researchers that are working on innovation. So I've been teaching for the last 3 years after leaving the IEA, and I use these materials, and I found that we have students that are, they're exploring perovskites, they're looking into batteries, et cetera, but they don't know how their work fits into the bigger picture. But the IEA can help them do that, and it can really frame work, and it could encourage more people to go into the field. So that's the first recommendation. The second recommendation, the IEA currently conducts in-depth reviews of the energy and climate policies of all the member countries and some also emerging countries. But these reviews are, they're very long and they're very detailed and they're not terribly focused. I would suggest that the IEA switch to conducting technology innovation reviews of key countries that really focus in on the ETP messaging. And the IEA has a lot of credibility for these reviews. Actually, Sama and I worked together on one of the reviews. Has a lot of credibility because it brings in peers from all around the world. It's not just, but it brings in some IEA staff and international peers. And to focus these reviews on the technology challenges, especially in the emerging countries. The third recommendation I have is that the IEA should better utilize its alumni network. It has an extraordinary network because most people can own Fridtjof. See, everyone's smiling. They're all over there, the alumni, but they don't use us. They don't use us, and we're very valuable tools. So you guys should reach out. I mean, there's not even a compilation of like where we are, who we are. We did a reunion in Washington at my place a couple of months ago. It was fascinating. Everyone wanted to do more for the IEA, but nobody had really even reached out to them. So that's my third recommendation. Thank you.
Well, there was the question was about how to give IEA more work, but you've asked for more work for yourself, so that's great. Can we get Peter Taylor from the university?
Thank you very much. I've also got 3 very practical areas. So the first, we've heard a lot about financing today, and obviously the IEA does work in that space, but I think there's scope to bring its analytical power and, importantly, its communication skills to shine a greater light on that important topic. So that's number 1. Secondly, again, the IEA is famous for its statistics on research, development and demonstration, but I think it's time now to review whether the breakdown there is the right breakdown given the challenge that we've got, whether we ought to be looking at more statistics on the demand side, on technologies which are relevant to emerging countries, and also to bring in on a consistent basis what's going on in non-member countries and also in the private sector, so we have a much better picture of what's going on. And then finally, I think the IEA is famous for its reports, and I think that it could do with focusing on some of the Cinderella sectors, shall we say, where perhaps attention is not so much focused. So we heard about industrial heat today. I would say that's probably one Cinderella sector, but there are also others, including perhaps shipping. And with that, thank you.
Thank you. The last one from Fezile, and then we'll come to final remarks.
Hi. So what I would like to say is, by creating a local office, for instance in South Africa, could literally serve a lot and serve a lot of people. And I see this as a venture building type of office or type of institution that is created to not just have a place where we just talk about it, but has a place where we actually do something about it, and that is being the clean energy agenda. Within this type of institution, we create working programs and interventions that need to be designed in such a way that all actions and outcomes are measurable in terms of the evaluation criteria of what it is that's being done. And this is both for successes and failures. And I also want to say is that to encourage innovation, this whole type of institution will encourage innovation and new ideas, as we need to encourage venture building and local investment. Like I've mentioned earlier, there's lots of money being plowed into Africa, and more so South Africa, but who is it going to? Is it being distributed fairly to all types of innovators? That's more so the reason. And then also, as a local partner is incremental to the success of this entire institution or ecosystem that I'd like the IEA to look into, and taking on a structured approach with the use of AI and people-to-people methodology is very important, because what you normally find within the funding ecosystem is that you find yourself not speaking to the institution, but you're speaking to a person's ego, which in most cases funding misses a lot of people here. And there's a lot of potential that is being missed. And what we can be doing here is also building a structured tomorrow. Last sentence, such an institution will not only spur innovation, but will also encourage the development of new learning institutions that will fast-track green economy objectives, and also, most importantly, link accountability.
Thank you. First of all, apologies for keeping you all short, but we have managed to keep this on time. So a round of applause for everybody's contributions. With that, I hand over the mic to Timur.
Thank you very much, Akshat, for so deftly moderating today's plenary sessions. We have heard from many speakers covering many different topics, and you've done a really great job in guiding the discussions and keeping us on time. We started slightly late, and you managed to stick exactly on the time. I mean, 5 minutes late we started, 5 minutes late we finished. So congratulations, and thank you very much. Big applause to you, in fact. I would also like to thank the colleagues who've been working behind the scenes to make today's event happen. I can't remember who said it about the big team that was behind it. There is a big team indeed, but I would like to really single out here Simon Bennett, who's sitting over there, Per Anders Vidal and Anna Kalista, for the enormous amounts of work and late night shifts they put into making today's event happen. So thank you very much to the three of you. So, dear colleagues, thank you for participating and for all your thoughtful contributions. On behalf of everyone here at the IEA, I would like to say that we have learned an awful lot from you. It was an enormous amount of coverage that we had, and it will feed directly into our future work on clean energy technology innovation. It's been very inspiring to hear all your thoughts from the breadth of sectors, countries, technologies, institutions that you're representing, and you can count on our support moving forward. This event, as Japanese minister said earlier today, and our executive director this morning, was convened in parts as the result of a request to the IEA by the G7 leaders' Clean Energy Economy Action Plan to convene an international forum on the topic of energy innovation. And really big thanks to Japan here in particular for the leadership, as well as all the excellent support they have been giving to us, to the IEA in terms of our technology work, alongside many other countries, even though I must say what Bert said here from the Netherlands resounded very clearly with me. Our governments can help us even more, absolutely. So, as was mentioned at the start, the conclusions of today's meeting will be passed on to directly to the ministers. We are gathering for the IEA's ministerial meeting and the 50 years celebration. In fact, Deputy Secretary Turk will be the rapporteur tomorrow at the ministerial meeting. As part of the 50 year celebrations, the plenary session will begin in just a few minutes' time at 4:15. And I encourage you all to follow the presentations from this room. It's unfortunately a lot of delegations and many others who are in the main room, but here is the dedicated listening room, so please take advantage of that. There will be 50 anniversary celebrations, a reception taking place thereafter, bringing together the participants involved in all the ministerial meetings of today, the opening, the various different high-level dialogues, this Energy Innovation Forum. It will take place upstairs in the Salon du Parc, starting at 6:15 and continuing until around 8 p.m. Thank you very much once again to be with us here in this first ever IEA Energy Innovation Forum, and I hope you enjoyed the day as much as we did. Thank you very much.